Swamiji comes to his work in New Delhi after more than 30 years of service at the international headquarters of the order located in Belur Math in West Bengal, India, where he had the rare privilege of associating with some of the luminaries of the order. At Belur Math, he exercised his expertise in the areas of financial administration and fund management. He was also closely associated with some of the order's innovative work in social welfare initiatives. Swami Shantatmananda was a pioneering influence in setting up an NGO in the suburbs of Kolkata called Sharada Seva Sangha, which is managed by more than 100 trained women volunteers. This is just one of his exceptional achievements in the area of women's empowerment, which is a developmental area that is integral to his vision of nation building. Swami is also deeply committed to the spreading of value education amongst the youth, especially the school and college students. He has been closely associated with the development of a number of insightful programs on value education, all based on the character-building philosophy of Swami Vivekananda. He is engaged with the government of National Capital Region of New Delhi, the Central Board of Secondary Education in India, and other high-level departments in Indian government, and has been invited to speak at various schools, colleges, universities, corporate and financial institutions, government bodies, and of course, religious and cultural organizations. Swamiji was instrumental in devising programs telecast over CNN, IBN, and Doordarshan's national channel, and writes regularly for the Sunday Guardian and occasionally for Speaking Tree in the Times of India. He also organized a unique World Peace Conference in New Delhi, which was inaugurated by none other than His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Finally, Swami is passionately involved in interfaith dialogue to closer understanding between different faiths, and is deeply committed to peace initiatives all over the globe. We will, of course, hear more about this outlook and about the philosophy which underlies it in this evening's lecture. At this time, please join me in offering Swami Shantatmananda a very warm Princeton welcome this evening. I have to just add one note. Among our gifts, we want to gift Swamiji an official Princeton Hindu Satsangam and Hindu Life Program water bottle. And we're very blessed to be here in Princeton. And among other reasons, one reason we're particularly blessed is our school colors, as many of you know, are very much in harmony with Swamiji's beautiful robes and with the saffron color. So we're very happy to offer him this gift and to welcome him as an official member of our Hindu Life family here at Princeton.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतंगमय Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, and from death to immortality. Om peace, peace, peace. Dear Viniji and our friends here who are interested in interfaith understanding and harmony, particularly the special contribution of Swami Vivekananda. I am very happy to be here at this wonderful university. In fact, one of the students showed me around, and and I was amazed by the facilities and the depth and dimension of this extraordinary place of learning. Religion is one of the fundamental aspects of human life, that perhaps something which is at the core, at the deepest levels of understanding of humanity. So much good has been done in this world because of religion. Ever so many philanthropic institutions, so many hospitals, schools and other homes, etc. are being run by people who have allegiance to one religion or the other. At the same time, we all know so much of bloodshed, so many wars, etc. have also been fought in the name of religion. Now perhaps the time has come, in this world there is so much of intense competition. Wars in ever so many forms, directly or in a disguised manner. There is so much of disharmony and misunderstanding among nations, among people, within countries, outside countries. Perhaps it's possible that religion can really do something very fundamental, very noble in this regard to set right the situation. Because it's always good to work on something which is very fundamental, which is unique, which is so special to all mankind, whether they profess it or not. So probably I think it's one area which really needs to be looked at very closely. Now when we talk of religion, the pluralistic idea of religion comes to our mind. It has both an advantage and a disadvantage. Advantage, it talks of so much of variety, so much of diversity. Now the problem comes when each religion or the followers of each religion, they claim that their religion alone represents the truth, or their religion alone is capable of leading mankind to the ultimate goal or destiny of life. So this is the advantage as well as disadvantage of the pluralism in religion. So then that brings us to the idea of harmony. Harmony, one of the essential ways of understanding harmony, if it's to be really understood truly, is to recognize the underlying difference in each religion. Knowing that and yet trying to come together, trying to find a commonality, find ways and means of peaceful coexistence and so on. Harmony is not wishing away the differences, recognizing the differences and yet trying to work a way out, find a way of finding something meaningful through that. Because harmony should not be equated with indifferentism, as they say. Sometimes people very loosely say that all religions are same or there is nothing different. Not that way. Harmony is recognizing the underlying differences and yet trying to do something about it. Not only that, harmony is also definitely different from toleration. Toleration is one claiming superiority and condescending to let others live or exist. So one of the very famous statements which Swami Vivekananda made in the World Parliament of Religions held in Chicago in 1893. We believe, he said, as Hindus, we believe in harmony, acceptance and not toleration. So this is also something which is very important if you have to work our way through this interreligious understanding. Now the idea of harmony itself can be approached probably from 4 different angles. One is, the political approach. Now most of the countries, democratic countries like United States or India or several other European countries, where they say is no state is secular. The state does not support any particular religion. Individuals are free to pursue their own beliefs in an atmosphere of mutual peaceful coexistence. So that way, state takes a very neutral stand. It does not work for and against. It clearly says that state is secular. And then we also have the social approach to harmony, because in many countries, people of different faiths, they have their own different religious pursuits, but yet they live in harmony and peaceful coexistence, because ultimately people all want to live in peace. So whatever may be one's religious belief, people are not affected by that. They pursue their own religious faiths, and yet they live in harmony. In such societies, unless there is a political motive, unless there are vested interests, people continue to live in harmony. This is one social aspect of harmony, you can say. Another is a theological approach to harmony, because many of the scriptures, many of those doctrines, etc., are thousands of years old and all that. There is a need to look at them in a current context, the way the world has evolved. Probably they need to be reinterpreted if we are to really find a meaningful way of coexisting. In that context, I would like to say that in Hinduism, there are two different type of scriptures. One is called the Shruti. These are permanent and eternal in terms of their fundamental ideas or doctrines, but they also can be interpreted, because most of them are given in a very cryptic form, in a very brief form, but they give room for interpretation. So that is one thing. Apart from that, there are another set of scriptures called Smritis, which clearly can be changed also from time to time. So that way Hinduism is very flexible. Even the Shrutis have place for interpretation according to the needs of the times. And there are Smritis which deal with some of the practical aspects of life. So they are clearly, they do get changed from time to time. And finally, perhaps one of the most important aspect of this harmony is harmony through mystical experience. This is where probably we can find extraordinary commonality, synergy, etc. Because at the level of experience, there can be tremendous understanding. Because ultimately, if the emphasis is shifted to the idea of experience, mystical experience, there lies a great scope for harmony. You know the experiences of maybe Rabaya or Meera or Saint Teresa, they are not one and the same. But then they are all experiences in their search for the ultimate or for the truth or for some superconscious experience. So that kind of a search gives lot of room for tremendous harmony and peace and coexistence. So probably mystical approach is a very important aspect, very important approach to understanding harmony. So in this context only, I would like to tell you about Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, a 19th century mystic, saint from the state of West Bengal in India. He was the spiritual teacher or mentor of Swami Vivekananda, and much of the ideas of Swami Vivekananda were all gleaned from him and developed in a way which is more understandable to the modern mind, because Swami Vivekananda had a huge opportunity to travel extensively. He was for many years in America and also in Europe. So he had access, he had met a large number of people from different faiths, different cultures. So whatever he had learned from Sri Ramakrishna, he really gave a little more shape in his own way, and that's how he presented it. So the life of Sri Ramakrishna is so important because he was not really educated in the academic sense of the word. Yet, he was an extraordinary lover of God. He started his spiritual journey in a temple dedicated to Mother Kali in Dakshineswar in Calcutta. But then through his extraordinary spiritual striving, ascended unbelievable heights of spiritual destiny. One of the main supports, one of the pillars of his spiritual striving was the idea of vyakulata, or intense longing for God. With this one aspect of spiritual pursuit, he could go to tremendous distances. Not only he virtually experienced the different aspects of Hinduism. Hinduism itself has different ideas, like those who are followers of Shiva, then Vishnu, Mother, Shakti, Shaktas, Vaishnavas, Shaivites, and so on. There's ever so many denominations. So all those experiences he had, not only that, because he had that intense longing, that helped him even experience some of the truths according to other religions. He had great experiences like some of the Christian mystics. He had experiences like the Sufis of Islam. He could do all that because of his extraordinary love of God. He was a great explorer and he was deeply interested in pursuing truth. He wanted to enjoy the bliss that's also felt by the followers of the other modes of religious practices. That is how he ventured into Christianity and also into the Sufism of Islam. So in that way, he was a veritable virtual parliament of religions, so to say. People of other faiths used to come. They all would find some extraordinary oneness with him. He could relate to them so beautifully. And he had expressed those ideas in an extraordinary manner, in a very simple fashion. For example, he used to say that just as supposing there is a water reservoir, the Hindus draw water from that. They call it in one particular way. In Hindi it is called jal, meaning water. The followers of Islam call it pani. The Christians call it water. Someone else some other name. But then the ultimate thing is one and the same. The expression, the experience, the way it is expressed, it's all different. So he was one of the greatest exponents of this idea of harmony, and because of him only Swami Vivekananda could develop this idea beautifully and take it much further in a sense. For him, everything was a matter of personal revelation. Everything was a mystical experience. That is where he laid great emphasis. And that is how he could really scale such great heights. Even if you look at this idea of harmony, again, in a religious point of view, there are three basic ideas of harmony. It's not, one is, they call as exclusivism, where they say, there's a very, very funny way of bringing about harmony. And they say that ours alone is true, everything else is to be rejected. And that way they claim that's the way of bringing about harmony. Everyone get converted or everyone become this particular believer, and then obviously there is going to be harmony because there is no one else to oppose it. And there is also another idea of harmony, it's called inclusivism, where they say everything is included under that. Supposing there is a particular faith, they say that the others, the so-called followers of other religions, are also in essence following only this own religion, this religion itself, or this Messiah, or this messenger, or this Savior is whom everyone else is worshipping, knowingly or unknowingly. So every religion is included in this, and thereby there is a claim for harmony there. Of course, obviously, these things are all, they no longer cut much ice, and they are slowly being clearly shown the door, and they are no longer that popular or not much accepted that way. Although there are protagonists of all these faiths even now, not in too small numbers. But then this one of the popular ideas of harmony is this pluralism, where there is a clear understanding of the differences between religions. They say that the revelations are many. There are many paths to salvation, and they accept that all world religions are true. These are the three main ideas. All world religions are true, revelations are many, and paths are also many. So this is one very, very good idea of pluralism, and this idea, if it is pursued, then probably this can be a great, it's capable of really bringing in some kind of understanding between religions. So in this, the uniqueness of each religion is not really ignored, it's accepted, but at the same time, there are clearly scope for that kind of understanding with other religions. At the same time, this does not mean that all differences are wholly different. There is no absolute truth or any such idea. In that sense, then no interaction will be possible, no understanding will be possible. No? Supposing you accept only the differences and allow them to stay, then how do you bring about any kind of an understanding or any kind of a going together? So that is where probably there was some difficulty, because this pluralism stresses more and more the differences among religions, and trying to say that yes, let everyone have the space, let there be differences. But then what happens slowly, when that idea is again and again emphasized, when there are people even within such groups who are little more fundamental or more kind of affiliated to their own faith, that's where problems start, and that's where really the disharmony or other communal feelings etc. are given birth to. So this here also the one of the better ways of understanding this through this pluralism is it should become more practical. It should emphasize on ways and means, and rather than not a mere theology. And also it should be, each religion should be understood from the point of view of their own followers. In fact, this is literally what Sri Ramakrishna used to do. When he was undergoing some of the practices according to Sufism, he would not even go to the temple, the Mother Kali temple, with which he was so closely associated, where he had done intense spiritual practices. He won't even go anywhere near that temple. He had so converted himself to the faith or the understanding according to Sufism. So the idea is, unless we try to look at the different religions from the point of view of those followers, that is, otherwise it will not be possible to really understand that religion. So in this context, there is a very, very interesting story that comes to my mind. There's a small girl, like this small girl who is sitting here. So her teacher was trying to teach her mathematics, because she was even much younger than she was about 6 or 7 years old. So the teacher said, you see, my darling, now I give you an apple. After 5 minutes, 5 more apple, 1 more apple. And after 5 minutes, 1 more apple. How many apples will you have in your bag? Ma'am, 4 apples. She was shocked. Yesterday I had taught you so much. How is it that one day she had forgotten? So she changed the topic. Now I give you 1 cherry. After 5 minutes, another cherry. After another 5 minutes, 1 more cherry. How many cherries do you have? Madam, 3 cherries. And then she again came back to the old question. When she asked about the apple, again the child repeated 4 apples. She was shocked. Oh, you are deliberately trying to play mischief. You are not a good girl, you are naughty, and so on. She became furious. Then the child came on. Madam, when I started with the school, My mommy put an apple in my bag. So she was counting 4. So that happens. Unless we look at religions from the point of view of their followers, from their point of view, we often miss the truth and we create so much of disharmony and other problems. So looking at religion from their own followers is a very, very important aspect. Now, particularly, in the context of India, what was really the culture? What really helped us? Although we heard of some communal disturbances now and then and so on, believe me, this country for centuries, it had sheltered the followers of every religion. People who have been driven out from other parts of the world, like the Zoroastrians and many others, they all found shelter in India. They all lived happily and in great harmony and peaceful coexistence. So what exactly is the ethos or culture, the practices of India? The idea was that they had a wonderful idea of sacredness or divinity. They said that there are 2 aspects of divinity, namely the immanent aspect and the transcendental aspect. Because they accepted the immanence of divinity, for them everything was sacred. Every act. That's why there are ways of worshipping trees, rivers, even cows and animals and so on. Everything was sacred. Sacred permeating through every aspect of life, the immanence of divinity or reality, and along with that, the transcendental aspect, where you through meditation, through other practices, you go beyond the senses, you go beyond the idea of body and mind and so on, and scale great heights of spirituality. So life itself was an integral whole. That is how it helped them. Because once you have that idea, obviously, whoever is going to be part of the existence in the world, they all become, in a sense, divine. In one sense, there is a prevalent divinity everywhere. So that is what really used to help them. There are always the quest for an ultimate reality, but then they never used to forget the ground reality, namely entire existence used to be considered as sacred. Now there are very famous slokas. There is a very famous scripture from the Vedas. There are slokas to corroborate this idea. It says, Sahasrasisha Purusha Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat Sabhumim Vishnuto Vritva Atyatishtat Dashangulam Purusha Evedagam Sarvam Ed Bhutam Ed Chabhavyam Vitamritatat Inashana Edanina Tirohiti Edavanasya Mahima, and it goes on. It says, it's a huge human being, Purusha, with thousands of eyes, thousands of legs, thousands of ears, an extraordinary person. He says, this person is such a huge personality, 1/4 of him covers all the manifested world, and 3/4 of it is in the transcendental religion. What is the idea of conception? The whole world is entirely an organic whole. So no one is left out. Everything is included. There's a total idea of divinity. That is what this great Sanskrit hymn called Purusha Sukta, it talks about. Because it talks about such a mighty personality. 1/4 of that personality covers the entire manifested world, and 3/4 of it in the transcendental religion, in the unmanifested world. Meaning, thereby, the whole world is an organic whole. So, this idea of unity, the totality, that was the underlying spirit, the underlying ethos, the underlying culture of the country. So, at the same time, it accepted the diversity of human minds, and because of that diversity, people used to look at the ultimate, express it in various ways. That is what the famous, oft quoted, the Hindu idea, Ekam Satya Bahudha Vadanti, meaning truth is one, great men, saints, call it variously. So they said that because human mind has such diversity, so many ideas are possible. So they said that ultimate truth is one, but that's being called differently by people according to their own experiences, according to their own culture, according to their own practices, perception, and so on. That is how they accommodated all the variety in the world, one with the underlying idea of immanence of divinity, and along with that, in the transcendental world, the experiences can be expressed in ever so many ways. So, this according to the Sri Ramakrishna's idea, the idea of harmony, as I said, he expressed his harmony in this idea. According to him, harmony should be through direct experience, mystical experience. It should be from the point of view, the eyes of the followers. And then one fundamental idea he said was not to criticize or not to speak ill of any religion whatsoever. So with this idea, this gave rise to these 4 or 5 ideas again. The ultimate reality can be known by different names, but the real essence, the real meaning of a spiritual life is to seek that ultimate experience, to do intense sadhana, to become a great practitioner. So he said, don't worry about path. See, his unique way of bringing about harmony was, he never said, don't go into debate about what happens in the ultimate. This is what generally where there is a lot of dispute or misunderstanding, People start saying that this leads to the ultimate, this idea of final goal, and so on. So, he says, don't try to describe that and get into dispute. You become an intense practitioner. Have practice, sadhana, as the goal of life, and then you discover for yourself what happens in the ultimate. He says, all will feel that the ultimate experience is something which cannot be described, but is such a wonderful experience, so much of peace, harmony, and goodwill will prevail. That was one of his fundamental ideas. Then he said, that's why again the idea, it is called water by various names, etc. I used to say. And then, the idea, there are several paths. In various paths, the goal can be reached. Don't worry about what is the other person's path. You select a path which is convenient to you, where you feel fulfillment, where you feel comfortable, and that is how you should approach the reality. And then, again, one should be, he was always also very clear, one should be very strict, or one should have tremendous devotion or dedication or commitment to one's path. Otherwise, you would give an example. Supposing you are digging for water, if you keep on digging in 10 places, you won't find water. You must go deeper in the same place. So that way he said, you stick to whatever be the path that is clear, that is applicable to you, which you feel comfortable, but stick to it. Doesn't mean that you should go about in a superfluous way everywhere. Be strict, but at the same time have that liberality to appreciate that there can be equally valid other paths. Now this is where, apart from this idea of universalism of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda made some very special contributions, particularly in the light of his experiences all over the world, where he had met different people, where he saw people needed a little more clarity and little more perhaps understanding in this regard. So he said his idea of universalism is based on the idea that the religions of the world are complementary and not contradictory. Religions of the world are complementary and not contradictory. In the idea of universalism, more and more the differences are emphasized, whereas he says in the idea of universalism, the commonalities should be emphasized more and more. How we can bring it to that, what is it possible? So he said, there is no need to change your religion. In his famous speech in the parliament, the World Parliament in Chicago, he said, should a Hindu become a Christian? God forbid. Should a Christian become a Buddhist? God forbid. Not that. But each religion should accept the wonderful, noble elements of the other religion, assimilate it to strengthen one's own belief and one's own conviction. That is how religions can grow, religions can benefit from each other, and that is how so much can be contributed by each religion. Not only that, when he said that, his idea was such universal approach can be applicable to the entire humanity. Once you accept the idea that there are good ideas in other religions also, then at that very moment you take out all the negative ideas, the ideas of criticism, the ideas of looking down upon other faiths. Not only that, because it clearly said that there need not be any change of religion, and then the commonalities are to be emphasized. He said such a religion can have universal applicability. And then, in that context also, he talks about an eternal religion. What is this eternal religion? He said this religion is not to be defined. He goes beyond even the formal definition as Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Islam and so on. He said that the religious consciousness of people, there is a tremendous aspiration within every human being to reach the ultimate, to transcend limitations, to go beyond whatever problems, difficulties are there, and to find lasting peace and harmony and so on. That he said that as the eternal religion. He was in fact not even in favor of defining that type of a religion. In fact, he found great echo in the words of Max Muller. He said that the husks may be different, but the inner kernel is same. That's what the great Max Muller also said. So you see, the humans struggle to go beyond limitations, to reach transcendental levels. He said this is at the core of every personality, every being, and that he says, if this is to be strengthened, if this is to be pursued, this can be, in a sense, even called an universal religion. And he also talks about another kind of a universal religion, where he says that all religions exist together, something like United Nations, you can say. All the religions are there, they can coexist, but again here also he doesn't talk about the fusing of religions. They are not to be fused together, they can be like a garden of flowers. So many flowers are in a garden, it's an individual religions can be there, but then as long as you appreciate and understand that they are not contradictory but complementary, this also can be another approach to that kind of a universal religion. And then he clearly says that his greatest contribution perhaps he laid the greatest emphasis on this idea, the age-old, the Hindu idea or the Indian ethos, whereby the immanent aspect of reality was so much stressed, along with the transcendental aspect. He said life itself should become an integral whole. Man struggled to transcend limitations and reach the ultimate goal or ultimate reality in life. That should be what is to be stressed. In that sense, he was talking about an universal religion where everything will be looked upon as sacred. Once you have such an approach, obviously it is very difficult to do anything negative. He talks about humans search for ultimate freedom. Somewhere he gives a beautiful definition of human personality. He says, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest his divinity. He says there are 4 paths. Do this either by birth, or worship, or psychic control, or philosophy, by one or more, or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. So he talks about the ultimate freedom of all of us. So after all, in that sense, every religious definition, every denomination, every kind of aspiration, pursuit can be largely accommodated in this definition. And because basically if you even look at it, what What does Christianity say? Christianity says we are all created by the God, Father in heaven. So, if the Father in heaven is so supreme, so powerful, so divine, so glorious, He cannot create something which is useless. So we can also feel we are also part of that. We have some connection, some allegiance, some lineage to that Father in heaven. So we are also pure. We are also divine. Islam also talks about that. So this idea, if you do not look at it merely from just a Hindu point of view, thinking that, oh, divinity, it means Hinduism. No. What he talks about is, after all, human beings, all of us, are constantly searching for that elusive freedom. In fact, I would say that if all our endeavors, whatever human beings do, if it is to be expressed in a single word, perhaps the word freedom would be the closest to that. In one word, if you have to express, this idea of freedom is what all of us are seeking in ever so many ways. Whether it's freedom from economic problems, or health problems, or interpersonal problems, many of those things. But Swami Vivekananda says, if you have that freedom, when you can really go beyond the idea that we are the body, or we are the mind, or we are limited, we are constrained, we have this limitation or that problem, if you search for that eternal freedom, that would happen only in some way or other if you try to understand that we are extraordinary. We are so powerful, we are so great. It is possible for us to attain that kind of a freedom. So in that sense, he talks about an universal religion where it is directly linked to human beings' aspiration for transcendental experience, an extraordinary idea of search for freedom, and then at the same time looking at the immanent aspect of life as everything being sacred, everything being real, everything being that supremely spiritual or divine. So in that sense only, he talks about this kind of a universal religion. Now we should know that what exactly is the practical application. Does it really take us anywhere? Do you really find any practical application? Probably you can think of fivefold harmony that can emanate from this idea of an universal religion. First is the harmony between the sacred and the secular. Everything is sacred. There's nothing secular. In fact, somewhere he says, if a person can understand his real nature, even a shoe shiner would shine the shoes brilliantly. Whatever we do, wherever we go, whatever we attempt, if you have some idea of our own extraordinary nature, if you are constantly pursuing that kind of a freedom, then slowly we can erase all the differences between sacred and secular and convert every action, every endeavor into a sacred action or a sacred activity. Obviously, that would really pave way for a tremendous harmony in this world. Because if the entire humanity is pursuing only what which is called sacred, obviously there is very little room for disharmony in such a world. And then he also said this also would bring about a harmony between science and religion. Swami Vivekananda clearly says both science and religion, they seek truth. Science is seeking truth in the immanent world, in an existential world, whereas religion seeks truth or talks about truth in a transcendental world or a transcendental fashion, transcendental manner. So both are approaches to truth, so there can be harmony between science and religion. And then harmony between love of human beings and love of God. There are, in some religions, in one understanding of religion, there's a feeling that love of human beings is limited, it leads to bondage, it leads to difficulty. But then if you have this idea of sacredness everywhere, every love, every affection, love of human beings and love of God, there can be a tremendous harmony there. And then another extraordinary contribution this harmony, this understanding of universal religion can bring about is a harmony between contemplation and action. This is always a tremendous problem area, difficult area. When we want to work, we feel, no, this is not good, let us meditate. And we meditate, we are so much hemmed in, bothered, flooded with thoughts, we feel like going out and working. Supposing you understand this, supposing everything becomes sacred, whatever you do would lead you to a higher understanding, an enlightened world view. That is why, when he established the Ramakrishna monastery, he said, my monks with this moment dive deep into meditation, and in the very next moment they would go and sell the produce in the market. Because he said, you must find contemplation amidst intense activity. That is the result that can happen out of this idea of universalism, because it removes the distinction between the sacred and the secular. Today if you go to India, the Ramakrishna mission is running huge number of education institutions. Hundreds of thousands of students are studying in our institution. Millions of patients are being treated in our medical institutions. But all with the idea, not that we are doing something in a secular sense, with the pure idea, it's a sacred endeavor, it's a spiritual sadhana, with that idea is being done. So this idea of universalism has directly found a practical application. Not only Ramakrishna mission, many other institutions in India and several other parts of the world are also doing this. In fact, if you look at the idea of philanthropy in Christianity, obviously they are trying to see Christ in their service. Otherwise, they will not be able to serve with that kind of a sincerity, intensity, and that kind of a dedication and devotion. So, Swami Vivekananda's universal idea gives rise to this kind of a harmony. And then, this is everything, it leads to a harmonious development of personality. Thinking, willing, feeling, working, philosophy, mysticism, devotion, and work. All these, unless we develop on all these ideas and all these fronts, our personality will not be complete or total. So he talks about 4 yogas, the Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Karma Yoga. They are names, but they directly relate to some aspect or other of our own personality. So through all that, it's possible to bring about these types of harmony. And then one of the direct experiments or one of the direct results of Swami Vivekananda's idea of universalism that is being put into practice through this great institution called Ramakrishna Mission. We have about 170-75 branches, mostly in India and in most other countries. Everywhere this idea with authenticity. The authenticity is so important in this kind of universalism. That will happen only when you try to implement it, practice it in your daily life. And that's how we are trying to do this. And this can have, as days go by, it will have a greater and greater application. This can bring mankind together because this can really directly influence some of these areas like science and technology, globalization, and then the kind of awareness which people have about disadvantaged people, deprived people, the human rights issues. All this can be handled beautifully through this idea of harmony. Not only that, the awakening of a spiritual ideal that's slowly catching up in different parts of the world. Now there's a new class of people, particularly youngsters, who are emerging today, who call themselves as spiritual but not religious. They don't want to get into any formal religion. They don't want any label. But they are ready to pursue this idea of spirituality. And this Swami Vivekananda's idea of universal religion, where life is taken as an integral whole, where the emphasis is on the spiritual pursuit, the idea to reach the ultimate freedom, the goal of life through a spiritual practice, and whereby every activity, every effort is considered as sacred and not a secular, that can really give rise to a tremendous sense of harmony and goodwill and peaceful coexistence in this world. Probably you can call it as a secular spirituality, where not so much is being emphasized on any formal labeling of religions, rather it goes beyond that. In fact, somewhere Swami Shantatmananda says, I salute all the past religions. I go to the mosque of the Muslim and I am ready to pray there. I go to the church and kneel before the cross. I wish to meditate along with the Hindu. At the same time, I keep my heart open for any number of new religions or new efforts or new awareness, new discoveries that might take place in the realm of the spirit. So probably I think, friends, this idea, this universalism of Swami Vivekananda can go a long way to promote peace and harmony and coexistence in this world. Thank you very much. Now I would like to answer questions in case you wish to ask something.
So, how do you have any practical advice on how to nurture this idea that everything you should do should be sacred? How do you perform that? How do you do that?
One of the basic requirements to practice is intellectually to understand, conceptualize that inherent within us is an extraordinary power, extraordinary capacity. Something that is sacred is inherent in all of us. Once we recognize that, slowly we can go about by practice. It takes practice, it takes time, it takes a long time to develop. But then basically if we give into this idea, if we accept the idea that within us there is an extraordinary power, capacity, something that is very sacred is fundamental to our real nature, and that is the starting point. Once you have it, what happens? Once you feel that you are sacred, you are something very special, you can't look down upon another person. The other person also becomes sacred. The idea that I am sacred would immediately give rise to the idea the other person is also sacred. And through that, through constant practice, slowly, if you try to keep track of this, over a period of time, you'll be definitely able to make progress in this regard. Yes?
So, you spoke about harmony and how it can be affected. And in that regard, science kind of succeeds very well because all the time it's ready to accept its mistakes and move on. So what do you think about the religions accepting the fact that they could be wrong and not be so arrogant about being the right way all the time? I understand your humility and that's fine, but then accepting that their own ideas could be wrong and unable to change.
Definitely, why not? See, people do accept there are this thing, but then science also has been the cause for enormous wars, destruction everywhere. So unless you accept there is a greater idea to be pursued, unless you accept the idea, we have to transcend our limitations and seek that ultimate freedom. Science cannot substitute religion. Science can complement religion. They can go together. But you cannot say that science alone is sufficient because science purely deals only at the existential level, material level. But religion, if pursued properly, can take you to a transcendental level and put you beyond sorrow, beyond suffering, beyond any difficulty or discomfort. That is why true religion is needed, not dogmatic, not that which claims this or that. That's why Swami Vivekananda said, let us not even define. Let us accept that there is a need to gain complete freedom, and in that sense we should work. So science definitely helps, obviously. Yes?
You talk about being sacred, harmony, and it takes practice. What practice? What do we practice? Is it looking for the good in things as opposed to the bad? I mean, we focus, I think our whole culture is focused on what's wrong with that situation as opposed to what's right. I mean, would that be a good starting point?
Definitely. Because you see, the point is, The moment we recognize, see, the starting point is from self, from oneself. The moment we have the idea of that sacredness in us, we start looking for sacredness everywhere. Everywhere, in religion, in society, in all walks of life. The more and more we hold on to this idea, that is how then obviously the negative sides will start vanishing. Of course, I didn't want to invoke personalities. There was an extraordinary woman by name Sharada Devi. She could never see the faults of others. All her life. People used to become exasperated. How is it that you can't see faults? She said, why? Where is the need to see faults? So, that happens as we evolve in life. See, even, in a small way, many of us practice, when we really think of the goodness of others, the good ideas of others, we tend to forget, we tend to downplay the negative aspects of personality. Even supposing someone is a very close friend of yours. How is it that you are able to recognize only the good parts of him and ignore the defects? So in an unconscious way, we are recognizing that sacredness in that person. Swami Shantatmananda says, make it a conscious practice. Many of us unconsciously do things which are extremely spiritual. When does it become part of our life? When we consciously and deliberately, assiduously practice this. Then it becomes part of one's life, and that is how we become. You can walk the Christian path, you can walk the Islam path, the Hindu path, the Vaishnava path, the Tantra path, doesn't matter. Be honest. That is why Sri Ramakrishna is so relevant. He never bothered about the paths. He said, you take it, any path that suits you. Be honest. Be a practitioner. That's important. The rest will take care of itself. At some point of time, you will discover the truth because you are honest, you are sincere, you are downright committed to a higher idea. Someone, yes?
You talked about spirituality without religion. We have raised kids here and we always struggle to give them our side of it, like this is religion, this is how you should be praying. But they say, Mom, we don't believe in a religion, we feel spiritual. Is that acceptable? And what other message can we give them if they want to stay that way?
Yeah, you can tell them this is an idea which children will accept. You tell them, you talk about freedom. See, everyone wants to be free. So you slowly bring them to spiritual way of life. You teach them some of these things. Don't you think that you need freedom? For that, you must understand there are deeper truths, there are deeper realities. Life is not just merely going to mall or going to parties or having designer clothes or eating well. There are things beyond that. So when you talk about freedom, slowly people have to understand that what is really impinging us. Where do we feel the lack of freedom? Ultimately the idea that I am the body, I am the mind. That's what is putting you to the highest obstacles. So slowly they will understand. Teach them in phases, teach them slowly. Tell them this idea. Accept that there is a supreme principle or supreme reality or there is a state of being completely free and work towards that. So the idea of making everything sacred, definitely it will work slowly.
Rituals at all in this.
Actually, Swami Shantatmananda, that statement, he goes further, I didn't quote it fully, he says, books and temples and rituals are but secondary details. If it's convenient for you, do it, no harm. See, this is so all-encompassing. It can take everything. It's like a thermodynamic sink, so to say. You can have everything if it helps you. For example, Sri Ramakrishna, he started his spiritual journey as a worshipper of Mother Kali. But where he went, that's why, you can be born in a church, but you shouldn't die there, they say. So you can start wherever you are, pursue doggedly the truth. Go further and further. If it helps you to concentrate, if it gives you an elevated state of mind, do pursue it, no harm.
Swami, very, very interesting, thank you. Very enlightening. But the question is this, which I think everybody is trying to struggle with. Every time you hear conversations like this, and you're speaking from the Hindu perspective, and I've heard other faiths' perspectives also, the talk is always very nice. But the practice of each one of these faiths, especially the organized religion, which the ladies have brought up, the organized religion is where the problem is, because it's tied to the money. You know, each one of these temples, the mosques, the churches, the this, the that, etc.
Yeah.
all
No,
want
I've understood.
But let me go on to finish. And I agree with you on the acharya, or these priests, these mullahs, these pastors who create problem. You know, to me, they are the real problem of the world as we see today, because they incite their own people amongst themselves. When they're with others, they talk very nice. All of them will talk very nice. So when they're amongst themselves, they incite hatred, because they want the path that they talk about only. Because
No,
it always
that's
at the
okay.
end, let me go on.
Yeah,
It always comes out in the end with the money.
yeah.
Everything is tied with the money. The religion is tied with the money. If you take money out of it, I think religion would simply disappear. If people stop giving money to the mandirs, to the mosques, to the temples, to the churches, I think religion will disappear. But having said that, let me come to the real question. And the real question is this. In India today, if you are Shudra, you're running away from a lot of these issues. You're running away from religion. If you listen to, in some ways, the message of Ramakrishna is failing in India today, because Modi is getting power. And his system, his mindset is based on hatred.
Now let me complete it. Because no, the point is you must understand, if you try to change the world, you are completely gone. Never ever attempt that. Swami Shantatmananda says somewhere, the world is not in the least need of you. Whatever you do is for your own good. If you feel it's a dire necessity in your personal life, pursue it. We cannot change the world. We are not empowered that way. So much, no. See, the world is created that way. What is the idea of Srishti? What is the idea of the Manthan, the churning of the ocean, milk ocean? Devas and Asuras will always be there. There will always be positive and negative in this world. Who gets the benefit? The microscopic minority who are intensely spiritual, intensely serious, intensely genuine. If you want it, you will get it. If you are bothered with everybody else, yes, be bothered all your life, nothing will happen. I can't say anything beyond that. I am so serious, I am intense about my life. I feel I am in tremendous need. Supposing your head is burning, there is a very famous quote in the Upanishad. Deepta Shira. If your head is burning, will you be chit-chatting or taking tea? You will rush for water. How to quench the fire? So, please, I am very genuinely telling you, I am much more aware of the issues that you are talking about. Not that we are blind to all that. But there is no end to all that. Let anyone be. Has the world ever been completely changed? It will always be like that. Even in Ramarajya, there was a Ravana. So, the world always, the Devas and Asuras will always be there. We must bother about our own life. Spiritual life is intensely personal, intensely individual, intensely subjective. If you are sincere, if you are genuine, you can find the way. But if you are worried about what others are doing, God save us. We have no answer to that.
Yeah, because excuse me, Swami, this was actually a presentation by, I think it was opened up new ideas and views of the principles of life. But it's so difficult to really maintain that act of harmony and tolerance and everything else. And then people start politicizing so many things, and then they get shate shatyam samachare. You've got to do this.
Yes, I will give a small hint. I know it's very difficult. That's what in Gita also, Arjuna, who was considered a very great personality, he said, you are talking about so many good things, but my mind is being pulled away like a wind. How do I control it? Then Sri Krishna gives two ideas, Abhyasa and Vairagya. One thing is that intensity. And if you are serious, you must keep at least the company of such people. That is how these ideas get strengthened. We listen to one lecture and then next 100 days live a totally wayward life and come and listen to the second lecture, nothing will happen. You see, I tell you a personal, I was witness to that. See, there was a great philosopher by name J. Krishnamurti. Many of you must have heard about him. A brilliant speaker. I have not heard a better speaker than him all my life. You know, he used to hold evening classes for the general public. Thousands used to gather. In the mornings, he would hold a private session for a smaller audience. One day in the morning, I was also there. He was talking so animatedly about death. Do you know what is death? You know, his language, his voice. You know, your mind will be arrested if you listen to him. He was such a powerful speaker. So he explained animatedly about death. Then after listening to all that, suddenly someone from the audience got up and asked, "Sir, what is death?" And he said, "Oh my God!" For a couple of minutes he was silent. And then he thundered, "How will you understand death? Day in and day out, you come and listen to the lecture and go back and lead the same brutish, hellish life of sex, violence and nonsense. How will you understand death?" He closed his book and left. So you see, the point is, you know, the Hindus talk about an idea called samskara. Even if you are not given to, for example, please don't mind it, even if you are not given to drinking, you try for 3-4 days in such company, from the 5th day, even if they leave, you can't leave it. Good things are also like that, good practices are also like that. See, if you are, I don't know how many of you, honestly, I have come all the way, if you are really serious, if you are honest, if you take it like that, you must maintain it. Go to such company. Good is available, bad is available. Choice is yours. Go to such people, keep such company, discuss among yourselves, call such people again, have a 1-day retreat, 2-day retreat, spend some time, practice. Then your mindset will change. It is not like, you know, coming casually for a half an hour stroll. Lives don't change like that. Are we intense? Then it is possible. How people are, see, these are not stories. Vivekananda lived some 110 years ago. He had reached such a level of, you know, absence of body consciousness. He was about to go for a public lecture. The host with him, he was staying. That lady saw that this person was standing before a huge full-size mirror and then adjusting his turban and then his coat, and she said, "What? This man talks day and night about Atman, the infinite consciousness. He is so much worried about his body." Immediately he turned around and said, "Madam, I am somehow trying to remember that I am a body. Otherwise I can't go and lecture. Again I am trying to infuse the idea of body into me." You see, people have lived great lives. Even 60 years ago there was a great saint called Ramana Maharshi. And Francis of Assisi, it's all documented, it's not stories. So if you are sincere, attempt it, practice, keep such company, read such books. Make your mind a better and better piece. Then it's possible, not otherwise. Somebody here, he has been raising his hand. Yeah, please.
Thank you for being here and for your talk. I encourage you to point to two good things that I feel like are either in tension or complementary, and I'd like to hear you speak about that. One is this notion of the spiritual but not religious person who's able to, through their pluralism, find depth in spirituality and different practices. And on the other hand, the good of, instead of digging 10 different wells, to dig one deeply. Right? And so I feel I hear in those two things, in terms of one's own spiritual journey, either a tension or a complementarity. So how can one in one...
Extraordinary. That's how Francis of Assisi could see so much in birds, in trees and everywhere. Because everywhere he could see only that light of Christ, that personality of his, that truth, everywhere. So, you know, it's a very deliberate and calculated way of living. Of course, you know, life should be integral. Not that we are good at some time and then we go on doing negative things other times. Constantly, see, the life should be a total one, where we work within our family, in our friend circles, when we go to church or when we go to any other place. Always if you keep that mindset, yes, it takes time, then it slowly becomes your real nature. That's what in Hinduism they call it as samskaras. By constantly doing something that becomes part of your nature, your character, and then you'll be amazed to see that how is it that you are not able to, when others are looking at something negative, you will always be looking at the positive side of life. Someone behind this. Yes, please.
Okay. I love what you're saying. It's fantastic. So in Christianity, of course, the experiences of the saints, Saint Teresa of Avila, Ignatius, go through the list of all of them, they certainly have had all the experiences that we're talking about. I think Christianity gets tripped up with its doctrines. And the whole idea of that, Jesus was the one Son of God who came down and is different from everybody else, has set up such a roadblock to the idea that you're talking about. And then just as a second related idea, and this is really to what you're saying, is, there's a point in the tradition that it can't get past it. Like it's so locked on certain doctrines. And then, so related to that, my understanding in the Indian context that the universe is actually God, poured himself, herself, whatever, into the universe, right? So the universe is God.
Yes.
Is. Not just some poetic idea like God is in. Different understanding.
How can it be otherwise? So, please, the point is, the problem is not with Christ or Christianity. In every religion, it is the priests, the Hindu priests, and the Christian fathers, and the imams, they are the people who are creating problems. You go to the root, go to Christ. In fact, Swami Vivekananda said, if Christ were to be alive today, I would have washed his feet with my heart's blood. I have so much devotion to him. So, if you really want to find the truth, go back to Christ. Remove the intermediaries and you really find the truth. Yes.
I have a question. In Hinduism, how do you find harmony between Advaita and Dvaita? Because there's a lot of misinterpretation by people.
Again, see, the point is, again the same, interpretation by acharyas, by religious leaders. Because they had a particular viewpoint and they came at a particular time. But ultimately, they accept the ultimate idea. You can go through that path, you can go through this path, doesn't matter. Except there is a need for discovering the fundamental freedom, your own fundamental inherent supreme nature. Once you accept that, any path you take is okay. The point is, ultimately, if you are sincere, if you are honest,
one's own life and one's own practice, make sure that whatever one is choosing to do, one is actually digging a deep well rather than digging lots of ones all over the place.
so the point is, the point of digging deeper comes with the initial awareness that you want to discover that. So once you have that mindset, even as you dive deeper into a practice or the practices of a particular faith or a particular method, obviously such a person is not bothered about others at all. That is what insulates him. See, there may be 10 other things, but because I am so sincere, and that sincerity will slowly flower into getting over the deficiencies, getting over difficulties. That is how people have discovered the truth ultimately.
Then you get a Nobel Prize.
Yeah, see, the point is, somewhere even if you make a mistake, if you really believe in such a search, the search will find the answers for you. See, in spiritual life, the one thing that is most essentially required is that intensity and that honesty of purpose and the commitment to a higher pursuit. If that is there, you can rest assured, you will get guides, you will get people to help you, you will find solutions, everything will happen. That fundamental requirement, if it is there, the other things will definitely be taken care of. I can assure you that. Because people have followed that way.
That is to say, if one digs honestly and genuinely, one knows that one is digging one deep well rather than scatteredly doing it.
Yeah. See, actually, the point is, people being spiritual but not religious, they are okay, but then they are still at the fringe level. They are trying to be at some level, trying to understand, okay, as an exploration. But ultimately, in some way or other, unless we learn to go deeper, it's not possible to discover great spiritual truths in life. Yeah. Yeah,
Sorry.
please.
You had mentioned something about looking for sacredness in every human being. Till you get to a point where you can actually look at sacredness, and how do you get past their actions? If they're, let's say, a fundamentalist, how can I look beyond his actions and find sacredness in that person?
Yeah, in the initial stage, the best thing is to ignore. That can be done. But with a simple reason, even if you can, for example, even if you take that 9/11 incident,
Right.
the people who died, they were not ordinary people. They were misguided. But they paid by their lives. Many others died okay. But then, they were not insincere. Wrong understanding. Let them that way. So let us not try to, the point is, one great truth, one great practice in spiritual life is not to be judgmental. See, finding everything as sacred, that's much later. After you evolve to a great extent. Initially, let us keep off. This is something I don't understand. Let me be bothered with my own search. One day or other, I will get the answer. Yes.
I could not affirm more strongly what you have said, and I was raised Christian, but in the last 15 years I've gone on a spiritual journey, and I've come to believe very much, as you're saying, about God in existence in all things. And when I brought it to my priest, just as an aside, he accused me of being, I think the term is pantheistic. And from that moment on, there was a schism in my comfort level of going to this church, because I do believe this, and it's taken quite a lot of education and exposure and books and reading and such to come to this point that I'm so much happier now than I have. May I ask you, I'm a Westerner and I'm not that knowledgeable in this, but could you address the idea of the caste system and reincarnation in your country? Does it still exist?
Yeah, caste system still exists, but in a very degenerated form. Of course, it's going away largely. In fact, people trying hell-bent to become the lowest of the caste because that carries a lot of advantages. So it becomes politically expedient to belong to the lowest of caste because they have reservations in education, reservation in government jobs. So people want to become member of the lowest of caste. So you can understand. See, the original idea of caste was, it was a division of labor. See, in every institution, every country, there was some division or other. The names were different, that's all. Because in a society, there are different minds, different jobs to be done, different people. Obviously, there will be divisions. So that is how it started. There were 4 castes mainly. One was called the Brahmana, then the Kshatriya, then the Vaishya, and the Sudra. The Brahmana was supposed to be the custodian of all scriptural knowledge. Kshatriya was valorous, he was to defend borders, be soldiers and so on. The Vaishya was a trader, and the Shudra was the one who would do menial jobs and all that. But there was no idea of higher low. All this came because people started using all these as positions of privilege. The moment you bring about privilege, everything goes for a toss. In fact, I would also give one more interpretation, which in a sense I myself thought about it. I said, who is a Brahmana? Not a person who is after privileges. The person was capable of the highest level of sacrifice was Brahmana. Because they had no income of their own. They had no property of their own. The community would provide for their living. They were not after comfort, they were not after money, they were not after anything. They were only custodians of knowledge. They would pass on to the next generation. So from that he became degenerated, they appropriated privileges to them, they started calling themselves the highest class and all that. Obviously it has all gone for a toss. Now the way it is practiced is way away from the original idea. Obviously it has not much meaning. They are trying to, people are again harping on the caste as it is being practiced today. See, you cannot look at a tree from the worst fruit of it. You cannot look at a rotten tree, a rotten fruit and say this is the nature of this tree. You must look at the best fruits. The original idea was very glorious, but now it has become degenerated and it is on its way out probably. It's being practiced in a reverse way. People are trying to, there is a beeline for being the lowest of the caste.
Millions and millions of
That's right. Now, regarding the incarnation is a very special idea to Hinduism. Incarnation says, God comes down on earth as messenger or whatever it is. It's called avatara in our scriptures. Whenever there is need. See, Hinduism is always guided by a principle called dharma. Dharma is that which is fundamental to you, which is real to you, the guiding force, the guiding light of your life, where it always takes you on the right path. This was called dharma. So when people started moving away from that, there will be adharma, opposite of dharma, being unrighteous. So when there is more and more of this adharma, and more and more people deviating from the path of dharma, again it says there is a need for the Lord or the God to send his messenger or to come down on earth to again restore order, again show people the way to life. So we had a very interesting conversation. Every year in our Delhi ashrama, we celebrate Christmas Eve beautifully. We decorate Christ and Madonna in your temple, we offer worship. In our very temple we do it. And that day we call the Archbishop of Delhi and a couple of other fathers. So before that we have a small meeting where I give them tea. So then I asked them, you see, please, no one need to take affront, it's just a thought. I said, if God is all powerful, which your Christianity does believe, it is omnipotent, omniscient, all powerful, why should you have only one messenger? Why not you have 100 messengers? They had no answer. Next day he telephoned me, Swamiji, what you said yesterday? I say, why put limitations? So Hinduism says, whenever there is need, why there is need? Because people forget. The Avatara does not say anything new. The same old principles which are called Sanatana Dharma, or the eternal values, the Avatara again re-emphasizes in a form which is more suited to the times, to the temperament of the people, to their needs.
Thank you.
Yes.
Swami, thank you very much. Excellent lecture. I wanted to ask you, as this person mentioned here, how to dig deeper, how to find. So my question is, shouldn't one have clarity of mind, purity of mind to understand, to follow spiritual goals? And for that, there is sadhana required. There are rituals prescribed to give you the purity of the mind. So can we just write off religion saying that it's absolutely useless?
No. I never said that. I don't think I ever said that. See, these are all part of spiritual practice. Whatever you said, see, it can be, the idea of begging includes all this. Purity. See, how do you go deeper? Unless your instruments are sharp, unless you have all that equipment that is required, you can't dig deep. You can dig only at the surface level. Digging deeper is your own evolution. That is part of your sadhana. Becoming purer, becoming free from desires, becoming unselfish. Ever so many qualities are required. All that are part of that sadhana. So, whichever way you can acquire them, whatever helps you, concentration, intensity, maybe some practices will help you. So, all that are part of that. No, this cannot be done away with. All that part of that. So, the point is, if you have the basic sincerity, you select a path that is convenient to you, congenial to you, pursue it sincerely. Yeah, you wanted something. Yes, sir? Someone raised their hand? No. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Swamiji, for being with us. I noticed that you use the word freedom a lot, and in our society, freedom is used to mean many different things. I'm wondering how you see the relationship between spiritual conceptions of freedom and the more like material or secular conceptions that we mostly hear.
Yeah, because there was not so much of time, I didn't elaborate that idea. See, everybody is looking at freedom only, in some way or other. And you please understand, all these minor searches or the lesser levels or even the material freedom that we talk about, everything is ultimately related to that superior freedom alone. Because by nature, intrinsically, in our real being, we are that free soul, free spirit. But by finding expression, because we don't know, we search here and there at the wrong places. See, the idea, we are trying to become economically free. You want to go about shouting in the streets, do whatever we like. You want to take a gun and keep on shooting people. We want that kind of freedom. All this, that's what Hinduism says. They use a word called moksha, or the ultimate freedom. They say that, I often give this example, I don't know what's your income, supposing it's $100,000 per month, even then you have to make some kind of an apportionment, no? So much for my rent, so much for my party, so much for my family, so much for my this. Suppose suddenly you get a letter from Citibank saying that some long forgotten relative of yours, you have even forgotten that person, has left some $10 billion and you are the sole beneficiary. Then will you have to work out about apportioning any money? Whatever you want to keep on writing checks. All your life you can't exhaust it. So the ultimate freedom is that freedom which will take care of every other lack of freedom. All your pursuits will be under that. It's little heavy, but just I mention it, don't mind. What is that? See, if you go deeper, all our lack of freedom can be traced to the idea that I am the body, I am the mind. You go back and think deeply. I don't want you to answer right now. Everything, the difference that he is rich, I am poor, he is man, I am woman, any kind of distinction, any kind of difference, any kind of limitation, any kind of hurdle, any kind of shortcoming, any lack of freedom, everything arises from this single idea that we are limited, we are body, we are mind. So the moksha, or the highest type of freedom that Hinduism talks about, is to go beyond this idea. So I gave it in a very, very soothing form, more understandable, saying that we are that divine within. When you recognize that you are divine, then you can no longer say that I am this body with all its diseases, all its negativities, this mind which sometimes things good, things sometimes bad. Something deeper. Search for that. Once you have it, then see a person, now we have to eat every 3 hours. Why? Because there is this idea of body. Supposing you are not bothered with the idea of body at all. 12 hours, 14 hours, 18 hours, you don't feel at all. See, whatever I am saying is all based on real life experiments. People have lived and proved it. Not a single word is made up or story. For example, there was a saint, he was called Ramana Maharshi. He was in southern India. He had so gone beyond the idea that he was body or mind. He had realized he was that supreme spirit, boundless, eternal, birthless, deathless, infinite consciousness. That was his real experience. He had a huge cancerous growth in his arm. Doctors wanted to operate it. This is a huge operation, we need to give anesthesia. He said, no need, just extended his arm. This is recorded. He gave up his body only in 1950. So it is possible. It's not impossible. But you must recognize that and work hard, sincerely for that. All of us, if you are 5 years, if you are a serious practitioner, you will get some hint or other that there is something special in you. It will not be in vain. But we need to be very sincere. Spiritual life, spiritual practices are like, it's an investment which will never go bad. It will bring returns. There's one of the safest avenues of investment. Whether the stock market goes up or down, that value will only keep on going up. But you can't ask for dividend from day one. After some years, you will understand the way you look at things, the way you react to people, the way you behave in different situations. That will change. If you are a serious practitioner even for 5 years, I can definitely tell you that.
Thank you so much for the